Hello everyone, welcome to TGR's 2014 podcast. The team haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought we'd start afresh and review 2013. It was a great year with 2 new next-gen consoles in both the Xbone and PS4 releasing, also coming off the back end of a Wii U releasing in Q4 of 2012, as well as a host of new IPs and great selection of games of the year. We have a lot to discuss tonight. Be sure to check us out at thegamingrig.co.uk or our Facebook Twitter handles at facebook.com/TGRUK and twitter.com/TGR_UK. Also, we love fan input, and if you ever want to join us on a bi-weekly podcast, be sure to hit us up at info@thegamingrig.co.uk. Right, getting this party started, I would like to welcome William, Matt, Natasha, Jim and Toby to the fray. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
How are we all? We keeping good, yeah?
No.
Jim
Very well,
Jim had an interesting night last night, so we won't get into that too much. But he did join us, bless him, so good to have you aboard. Well, thanks for joining me, and without further ado, we'll get straight into it, because we've got a lot to get through. William, your game of the year, and why?
Probably The Last of Us, because I thought it was going to be terrible, but
Okay.
after actually playing it, it actually got me into consoles again, and the story is actually really good, and it's not like, I'm trying to think of the game, Amy, where the whole game was to basically carry this little girl about. I thought it was going to be kind of like that, but it wasn't. Like, she wasn't useless, so it was pretty good.
So you're
But
talking about Amy, the one where they released it on the expectation it was going to be a great horror game or suspense game, and it ended up being pulled because it was buggy as hell and then getting re-released. That Amy.
Yeah, and it was just an escort.
Yeah, it was
the whole
pretty
game
bad.
was an escort mission.
That game was pretty bad. Okay, and what were you mostly enjoying? Because obviously you played a lot of games over the year. Why did Last of Us hold up the most?
Because it made me cry.
Oh, bless. Oh,
not out of fear, but out of actual story.
okay, all right. So
Can't think
you obviously connected to the characters and the story then.
yeah,
Is there anything else there that really stood out?
Joel's a badass.
Yeah,
And
I also played as well, and the transition from where he started out as that doting dad to, well, he was a killer in the end, wasn't he?
Yeah, and,
alert!
No,
Wait, yeah.
in general, you go around killing, like, not only the zombie type things, you got humans as well. So
Oh, I see what you mean.
Murderer.
It's
No
okay.
spoilers in the podcast, don't worry. I'm literally saying the premise is you start out quite a
And just-
person and you grow, don't you?
and just saying, the first 15 to 20 minutes, that'll make you cry.
Mm.
It was pretty full on. So everybody else, have we all played The Last of Us?
Yep.
And do we all have the same sort of feelings? It had a good story, connected to it. Maybe not game of the year for you, but
I played a port that I found for the Game Boy Advance, and it was very, very disappointing.
how old was this one then?
No, it was released at the same time. There was a man who guaranteed that this was exactly the same as the one that was on the PlayStation 3, and he lied. He lied badly.
And you believed him. I'm not sure which one's worse off there, mate.
I'll be honest with you, I don't have a PS3. I needed to get the review out, so I thought I'd give it a risk, and the risk backfired, so we'll say no more than that.
So this is an experience for everybody. Let's not try and get all the dodgy games online. Apparently they don't work.
It was brilliantly written. I mean, gameplay-wise, it was solid. It wasn't anything revolutionary, but it worked so amazingly. And, I'm always going to be like a massive fangirl for anything with Troy Baker in anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Because I just, giggle sort of manically at his voice and, swoon. But it was brilliant acting. Like, beyond... I know it's a bit, said a little too much, but it is better than most movies you get nowadays.
Yeah.
Like the writing, the drama, everything just comes across perfectly.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. I was watching a documentary a couple of days ago of how video games changed the world. It's the Charlie Brooker one.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And he
Worth a
actually
watch.
states about like how the games are now movies, and I've discussed it, and we've discussed it in articles before on the site, and it's true because not only do you able to get involved in a story like a movie, you're actually to interact with it, and no movie will ever be able to let you do that.
It's the best way to break the fourth wall.
Yeah, definitely. And you say about Troy Baker, I really loved his work he did with the new Batman game. I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out, but he did really
It's
good there as well.
again some incredible voice work. It's very remarkable. He's been in the business for a while now. It's just sort of he was in so many good games this year. He was Booker DeWitt in Infinite, Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah.
It's just 2013 was his year. Thank you, Troy Baker.
Yeah, 4 of it.
Hands up to everybody, Troy Baker,
Yeah.
2013.
I think-
mean, to be fair, it's deserved because he's been around for a long time, bless him.
4 of his games were in my top 10.
Did
I'm saying, I mean, you got Nolan North, and he does a lot of everything, and he's good as well. But he seems to be the one everybody turns to. And it's just like there's other people if you give them, give them the chance. Like I forgot his name, the actor that does Lee in Walking Dead. He's an amazing voice actor as well. He should do more stuff.
I mean,
Yeah, totally.
did anyone here check out something I posted up a while back? Was an alternate ending to The Last of Us?
I might have missed that. What was that about?
Well, I won't spoil anything, but to anyone listening, I will say check it out immediately. It's amazing.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. If you just type in Last of Us alternate ending, it should be the top one or the second one up.
Okay, we will do. We'll have a look at that.
It's officially released as well, so it isn't like, something mucked up by someone.
We'll put it on the Facebook wall as well, /Twitter wall for people that might be lazy. So you'll probably see it pop up once this goes live. Okay, cool. All right, then. So that's a good pick, William. For me personally, it wasn't my game of the year because of what the same thing James said. It didn't really revolutionise anything, but it was a good game. I mean, was there something you didn't enjoy in it, or was it literally you were really impressed with all of it?
Well, the only bits I didn't really like was the utter frustration when you keep getting caught by the clickers. It's like, I'm not doing anything, but you caught me. How are you doing this?
I encountered that as well.
Ooh.
Okay, that's cool. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the game? If you could recommend it, if you could sum it up in 3 or 4 words to somebody.
Not a zombie game. Play it.
Seems fair.
Yeah, seems like a good review. Anything else then? You happy with that?
I'm happy.
Okay. All right, moving around the table then, down the line. Matt, what was your game of the year?
Well, I've just been going over sort of Steam library and a few console games that I managed to get a bit of time on, and there's actually only one of them out of the list that I've actually played through a couple of times now, and that is Bioshock Infinite.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is about it, because the game is sort of atmospherically quite wonderful.
Definitely.
The vibrancy, the way that it sort of moves away from how Rapture's sort of quite dark and quite dank, and it's got that quite atmospheric tension to it in and of itself. Bioshock Infinite keeps bringing it out into the light and making it just sort of still quite unsettling in very clever ways. And I like how it sort of plays about with what games are. When you're whizzing around on the rails, trying to strafe around on an enemy, it's pointing and laughing at duck and cover games where you spend 5 or 10 minutes just hiding behind a wall, jump out again. Bioshock Infinite, no, screw that. Let's whiz around on a massive tram line going around on the map whilst we're getting a guy with a shotgun. It's just one of those games where it functions so well, the narrative is brilliant, and it opens itself up to replayability in ways that a lot of shooters don't encourage nowadays, which is something I think should be appreciated.
That's true. I mean, I'm not heard anybody say about having to be replayability. A lot of people I've seen and read reviews about don't think there's much in terms of replayability once they've done the story and stuff. So you actually found there was a lot more to do once you'd finished then.
Well, it's quite like how in the old Bioshock they hide little tapes and things, so you find out all sorts of information about the world.
Yeah.
The clues in the name Bioshock Infinite, the game sort of loops itself. And when you're playing it, you notice details as you play through it again, and it's as if every time you play through it, you notice something different, and it's quite unsettling. Like, just every time you play it through again, you realise just how early on you're aware of where everything's going, and how you're kind of stuck in it, and you still can't escape. You still can't get free from it. It's probably the most unsettling game I've played this year, and I've worked my way through a couple of horrors as well, which was quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be doing that one as a podcast in the future, where we'll be discussing some of the great horror games, especially in the Steam library side of it. So, but you actually think some of it has been quite unsettling?
Oh, it is. There are just things in that game where it's just. I wouldn't want to say for sake of spoilers, but
exactly. So
yeah.
That's good. No, it's good. I mean, stuff you say, I've not actually heard people talk about before. So that was you definitely have a different experience. You took away a different experience than others. Then,
well, yeah, certainly. I should get around to writing about it again. Sort of looking back from another perspective again now, but I will just leave it as if you didn't pick it up in the Steam sale, why not? It was £3. Bloody hell!
Now everybody has Steam. They don't realise what they're missing.
I know.
So was there anything that stood out with it? Was it the atmosphere? Was it the environment that stood out?
Well, the gunplay and things like that. It's nice to see a game sort of bounce about a bit, and it does suffer, and it does have flaws in that it kind of sticks onto a few things from the predecessors which it doesn't really need. It just sort of has them for the vigors and things, for example. Like the fun though it is to just go and you're covered in crows. It's amusing, but it doesn't really lend itself well to the world. It just kind of feels a bit forced in.
Okay.
But there are so many other parts of it. I need to get around to playing Burial at Sea.
Sorry, James?
Oh, sorry, just saying, I thought the Murder of Crows ability was one of the most fun things in a game.
Oh, God, yeah. But whether it actually works with the actual game or not, that's the problem.
I get that.
It's deciding whether it should be serious or fun, and you felt that it was a bit confused in what it was trying to do.
Not necessarily confused, but I think it kept thinking that it had to sacrifice something, or that it kept having to do something else in order to entertain someone, which, I don't know. It's one of those things, when you're doing a mass market game, especially a title as big as Bioshock was, or still is as a franchise, there's always going to be that overlap, but I was happy with it, and I don't think there was any other game that made me sort of think as much as that one did, in terms of just what the message is and what it's trying to say, which I haven't had since I played Spec Ops: The Line. Oh, that was a fun one as well.
That was a good game. A good game.
You're completely right about the whole plot thing, though. Like, once you've played it the first time and you understand things, the second time you play through, you see things with a completely different angle, but it's still interesting in a completely different way now.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's especially because it does get quite heavy. I mean, I cringe at saying this because every single reviewer has used this one, but it literally hits you over the head with the quantum physics book. And I do cringe at that. But yeah, it really does get quite gripping. Like, when you start thinking, oh, it's getting a bit tame now, I can see where this is going, then it suddenly goes, no, you can't! No,
and it just turns again. Another thing I do like about it is actually manages to be funny. Like, so many other shooters nowadays that actually try and put jokes in like really inappropriate moments, or something like Uncharted when Nathan Drake just goes out, murders a load of people, and then just makes a joke about it, as if, oh, it's okay, I'm completely socially adjusted, not a psychopath. But it actually sort of falls into that sort of surrealness, and it falls into that sort of surreal fun time where you have these two characters that keep popping up throughout the narrative, and it's not funny in a laugh out loud funny, but it's just the way that they change the pace, and it's a different setting from going from 1 minute of heavy intensive shooting to another minute of just walking through and experiencing something and sort of indulging on the emotions.
Can I ask you something?
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy number 2? It is going somewhere.
No.
Say yes or no.
No, I didn't. I think it was pointless.
Did your hype come into it then once you knew that the creator number 1, he was coming back to it?
Ken Levine.
Yeah, Ken Levine.
I'll be honest with you, it didn't. It started when they started releasing the story things, and they started releasing the little bits of information, because they started showing how the world looked stunningly different and how it was going into a different sort of direction and trying different things. Cause,
away from Rapture, you mean?
Yeah, because I don't think in the Bioshock games Rapture was the big deal, because the Rapture is fun. I think what makes it great is the idea of it being a shock to the system of taking something and showing why it can't work or how it doesn't work.
No, I mean, in terms of story endings, again, no spoilers. The ending to Bioshock One still resides with me now. I still, it was like your sword drop moment, you know.
Yeah.
So it was very much. It's still, I remember it, and I think a lot of other people feel the same. And then I feel didn't get that from Bioshock Two, and then by the sounds of it, a lot of people were happy with Bioshock Infinite. So maybe Ken Dig coming back to it was a good thing then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, but I'm just curious because a lot of people I know that said about once, you know, they didn't enjoy 2, they were really interested for 3 though, because I think he was back. So it makes you think if he did number 2, where would that have been? In terms,
it probably wouldn't have existed. It probably would have just been because number 2 is what a video game sequel should be, i.e., a crap remake and recopy of what the previous one was. Whereas Bioshock Infinite is kind of, it feels like a spin-off in the very much sense that it's different enough from the games that it doesn't seem to be like a straight-up sequel, and I think that's confused a lot of people when it came to buying the game. Or is this a new franchise, or is it part of the same one? And they haven't helped themselves there because they keep muddling in Rapture and stuff into the game as well. But
yeah, I think that's working between. Obviously, we won't talk about it too much, but that's working between this story and why they do. I understand why they would implement that in.
It's more like tipping the hat.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's a good pick there, Matt. And Natasha, your game of the year?
I feel like such a filthy casual, but Pokemon X.
Okay. And you okay to explain why?
Partly because of the nostalgia. I'm going to admit, when I caught my first Pikachu, I squealed like a small child. Not even joking. But also because actually for a Pokemon game it has a pretty reasonable storyline, and there are little sort of off storylines that you can do that I didn't even realise existed until I just went back into the game after finishing the main storyline and just muddled around. There's like a whole world, and it's nice to see Pokemon sort of becoming an actual RPG again.
Yeah, taken seriously.
Oh, you're not just the guy that, defeats the gym leaders and then beats the bad guy anymore. You've got like you can make up your own little story, and you've got your own nickname, and it sort of personalized the series a bit more than the old games did, I think.
Yeah. And was there any like standalone things that really stood out for you to make it game of the year? Because I imagine you played a few games over the year as well.
Honestly, out of the sort of 4 or 5 games released last year that I played, the reason that Pokemon X is my number 1 is I've completed it all the way, which is unusual for me, for any game, because I do just pick up and play games and then just throw them away for months. I completed it in less than 2 months, which again, unusual, and just I don't want to spoil the main storyline, but it genuinely made me cry, and no Pokemon game, in fact, no other RPG I've played in a good long while has made me emotion in the same way.
Right. Okay. So it definitely you had a form of attachment to it, and you're still playing it now, going into 2014.
I'm staring at the Pokeball case it's currently sitting in. I haven't been playing it much because I've been attached to Bravely Default a little bit.
Yeah, another one you said you really enjoyed on our website as well, didn't you?
Yes, but it's not in my top 5.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I haven't finished it yet.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. It is true though. A lot of people would try and judge a game like, oh, this is going to be my game of the year, and then they need to finish it because sometimes getting to the end will change their perception of it.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, that's all great, Natasha. I can say, like, by sounds of it, you formed an attachment to it. Is there anything you didn't enjoy with it?
The bugs. Pokemon X was actually unusually buggy game for Pokemon. I mean, it had like some saving bugs in the main city, and it also, I don't know if it did for anyone else or I was just imagining it, but it seemed to be a bit laggy when you were going into gym battles. And it's a game on a cartridge, it shouldn't have lag.
I mean, could you not argue with this world that they've built on top? Like you said, you can go back and you can go explore in the world. That's maybe a lot to handle for a cartridge.
It might be a lot to handle for a cartridge, but they should have ironed out the bugs before it went out. It's not a beta game, it's a full release.
So was any of it like game breaking for you? To stop playing?
Fortunately, I was one of the very few people that didn't suffer from the main city saving bug because I never saved in the main city
Okay, for
until
those that
they
don't know
patched
what
it.
happened there,
Pardon?
for those that don't know what happened with the city bug, you said?
Basically, the main city, I think it's called Lumio City. If you were standing outside a building and were trying to save, it would effectively, when it used to, when your cartridge used to get a bit dusty, and when you tried to reload your save, it said game corrupted. It would do that for everyone pretty much, but they patched it out pretty quickly actually.
And
Some
it's worked since. They haven't been having a report since.
There hasn't been no.
Some
Okay,
people
well that's good to know then, because I like to think if people do listen to the podcast that they maybe go away and play some of these games they've not played before. So you always might be a recommendation somebody picks up. So
Oh yeah, just make sure you patch it before you play it. That's all I say.
run your updates before you play, basically.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, thank you,
With
Natasha.
everything.
Anything else you want to say about it? I mean, if you could
Nope.
sum it up maybe in 3 or 4 words.
I'd just say play it. That's all I can say.
Okay, no worries. Okay, James, moving on to you, game of the year.
Oh, it's a tough one because there was quite a few because it's actually been quite a long year. I definitely had it down to either Monster Hunter Free Ultimate,
Mm-hmm.
but then again, it's a re-release,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with Metro Last Light.
Okay, and why is that?
Well, it was the best kind of sequel you can expect, where they managed to look at every single thing anyone had a complaint about in the first game and just completely iron them all out. And it was just everything I want in a sort of survival-based FPS. It was so atmospheric at times. The first one was atmospheric, but it was so buggy you kind of overlooked it. This one, you could genuinely be freaked the hell out by just, slight noises and stuff. And it had a level of, well, not free roam, but it was a lot more open than the first game for exploration as well, within the areas. So in that sense, it added a bit more to the sort of fear of things, because in some cases, you genuinely had no idea what to expect.
Right, okay. And in what context?
But on a whole, everything came together brilliantly. As considering the first one was based on the novel of Metro 2033, this one was a completely original storyline, and that had me a little worried. But it came across so much better than the first one's plot, because the first one was kind of a half-assed attempt at an adaptation, whereas this one was so, perfectly suited to its environment and to its idea of being ported as a game, so to speak. Oh, well, that's weird terminology for a book, but and I just think Will also really enjoyed it. It was just everything came together perfectly, especially when they added the DLCs, which gave me great hope for another sequel, or at least a spin-off, where they allowed essentially a free roam area where you could just scavenge and such, and do so many, little things that just added more to this post-apocalyptic, horrific world.
I want to say, though, I'm too scared to play that DLC.
You still haven't played it?
I'm too scared because of the librarians. The spiders scared me enough.
The librarians are horrifying just because you know that they will absolutely kick your ass.
You used the word horrific then. That's pretty in-depth. Is it because it's really scary? Is it the atmosphere, suspense? What makes you use the word horrific?
It's not like I'm not going to say it's scary on the levels of some, directed like horror games, but its effect is one of the big things is that you can do something about it, right? Whereas I suppose your brain kind of adapts to different environments. Whereas when you're looking at Outlast, there's not a great deal you can do. So, even though it's absolutely traumatizing playing stuff like Outlast for me, right, eventually you understand, all I have to do is run, all I have to do is hide.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with this one, you've got on top of the fact that, because I tend to play these games on Ranger Hardcore mode, which is, essentially one bullet to you, you're dead, a couple bites, you're dead, but then it also applies to the enemies.
Okay.
So it's essentially a realism mode. But on the other hand, also, when you're scavenging, you only find, like, maybe one bullet in a magazine. So the fact is, the environment isn't adapted for you to run. The environment is adapted for you to fight, but it takes away your ability to fight. And when you're faced with certain enemies which are so physically overwhelming, like the librarians and such, where, on some of the lower difficulties, you can empty, several clips into them without even making a dent, right? And several clips, you could have been saving up that ammunition for about 3 or 4 levels. And it's when you get put into these situations and you gradually start to feel more helpless. And when Will was talking about the librarians, it was actually a level that was in the original Metro, and they copied the area almost exactly, but they improved on it for this DLC, where these mutants called librarians, they inhabit the Moscow State Library, and in that place though they hide in the rafters, they can jump down, they can jump from holes below you, and you kind of really have to combine stealth with big brass balls
to get.
And on top of that, they added there's like certain mechanics, like if you do get noticed by them, right, there's a slight chance you can ward them off by just locking eye contact with them, and in those situations they strut up to you kind of thing, and they start sniffing at you, and if you move your cursor or if you make any sudden movements, they will go ballistic, and it gets so tense. And
it does sound pretty intense. Would be a good word to describe it.
But
it's making me want to play through the first one again a lot more.
So obviously there was 2 that's been released. Which one would you say the better one is, or we can't?
Oh, what 100% Metro Last Light, the sequel. It's just
budget. Is that why you think?
No, I don't even think it was the budget. I just think they genuinely took people's criticisms on board, and because they managed to move away from the plot of the original novel, they had complete free reign over what they wanted to do.
That's true, yeah.
I suppose that gave them creative freedom to alter things more radically. And admittedly, yeah, the bigger budget did help, but it just came together brilliantly, and you can tell that they were really interested in the world and the environment that they were creating. Right? So much kind of like the first and third BioShock games, of where you can tell they care about this, universe that that they're building around you, and that they want you to get involved in it.
Yeah, that's true. But it sounds like, again, it's a bit like Matt, what you said about BioShock's atmospheric. It seems like Last Light manages to really nail that as well. So
definitely,
from what I've seen of Last Light, there's a lot of drinking in the emotions. They really focus on it. They did it in the first game as well, and some people criticised it for being sort of slow paced, but I really loved how it drags you in, and I'm guessing Last Light, it just goes even further than that.
Oh, it does. I mean, there's every now and again you get a sort of well-deserved break where you're in a place that has electrical lighting and there's people, and you're not kind of terrified about getting eaten, right? And even in those situations, things that you might think seem arbitrary still drag you in. Like you can go into like a theater-based station, and in this place, you got a show, and most people you might just want to walk through and carry on with the game, but I was quite happy just sitting and watching this entire show for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing we could say about current gen. I think it started the most with GTA 4, when you could sit. Well, no, actually, it was The Darkness, wasn't it? A couple of years back. It was a small FPS shooter. It was quite a good game, highly recommended for the Xbox 360. And you could sit and watch the entire movie. It was like even an achievement was to sit and watch the movie with your partner on the screen at that time. And then obviously, by the sounds of it, this game that works on atmospheric actually, like you say, incorporates this thing where you could sit down and watch like an entire show.
Yeah, and
to then get back to the horrific experience as well. So it's amazing how much they include in games nowadays.
Yeah, and there's just little things that you can tell someone took a lot of pleasure in doing. Like, one thing that for the life of me I do not understand is why this game, right, which probably features enough women that you could count on, your hands, right, has a fully functioning boob physics. And all I can think is, why is someone being paid a large salary to spend time creating this feature that exists in one level?
That's a bit random.
No, it's little things. It's because the thing is, it's unnecessary, but at the same time, someone has taken a labour of love into creating that.
And is they're proud of it. Yeah. Okay. So is there anything you didn't enjoy about it?
A couple of things. Like, it did suffer from one sort of big fault that its predecessor had, was you can sort of fuck yourself over in the long run, where the game, it's not broken, but it's almost broken, in that you might have used all your ammunition, or if you're going to be reckless, you might have spent all your ammunition, because your bullets are also your money in it. But and you'll get to a point, or if you didn't buy any filters for your gas mask, and you get to a point where you just don't have enough time to complete the level between the time it takes for you to breathe in poison. So
you then have to start a whole over again then?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I did notice they did remedy it slightly, in that they did make it so if you did restart the level, if you were very, very quick and cautious, you could find, some filters laying around. But I remember I was stuck on one particular, not even a level, like a space between 1 and 2 checkpoints on this one strip of running, where I was stuck there for maybe an hour because I just had to constantly sprint because there was no filters between that time, and I'd completely by the time I completed the last level, I had no filters left. So eventually I managed to essentially just through sheer ignorance get through to the next checkpoint where there were some filters.
So it does put it on quite thick. It sounds like quite a challenge as well. So
it's a challenge in the sort of rewarding kind of way, though. Much like Dark Souls, in that even though it's hard, once you beat it, you think, yeah, I'm quite proud of that.
That's cool. That's cool. Sounds like you had a good experience with it and a good recommendation for a lot of people that may not have played it. Okay, moving on then. Toby, your game of the year?
My game of the year is, after careful consideration, Rayman Legends.
Oh,
Only one that no one else has even played out of this lot, but
I played it.
I've heard a lot about it, as in it's been post-released and then it was delayed.
yeah, it got delayed so much. It got delayed like twice, and then it was supposed to be a launch game for the Wii U, and then it got delayed, and then there was loads of uproar, and everyone was like, eh, and then it got delayed again just for flipping Xbox and PlayStation. Ridiculous. Anyway, it's proved to be quite handy, because like the whole game was such an upgrade from the first. Like, they added so much more in, and like, I remember sitting there and playing it, like, and it's the first game in a while that I'd actually sat there and played continuously. So it was the first game where I wanted to play it again and again, and every spare moment I just wanted to play Rayman Legends, and it was a very good all-rounding game for the whole year. I just think out of a lot of the ones I played, that was one of the ones I went back to and didn't stop. I completed it really quick as well because I was playing it that much. Actually, I say completed it. I haven't got every little thing yet. I've got pretty much all of them. And the levels are really well thought out. Like, some of them are better than Mario, in my opinion. Like, everyone classes Mario as like the best platformer since sliced bread, with his side scrolling, but Rayman Legends is giving him a big run for his money, because the music levels are like the best ones. There's like hardly any of them though. There's like 5, but the music levels are definitely one of the highlights. And then they have like remixes.
Do you want to explain that a bit more? What happens with music levels?
You basically just play the level to a music. So there's one which is like Eye of the Tiger, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And like they're all themed around the world that you're in.
Okay.
But the music plays along to how you're playing. So it's usually on a constant run, and then you'd hit an enemy or you'd punch, but it's in time to the music, and things will pop up in the background or the foreground. But it's really cool how it all kind of, you have to jump around everything while everything's crashing down around you, but also remember that there's kind of music timing going on as well. But it's like a different element to play the normal kind of how they do platforming with running left and right and just jumping and bopping on an enemy, but they add this little new music mechanic into the mix. But then there's an even harder bit where you have to like, there's like remixes of them where they make the screen like split in four or something, or they'll zoom really far out, or you're really pixelated, so you can really not even see what you're doing. You just have to remember what you have to really listen to the music. You could play the level with your eyes shut at that point, and it wouldn't make a difference. You just need to know the music.
So for a side scroller, it sounds to me like they really do try to have a diversity there. They really do.
But that's like 5 levels out of all of them, and there's like they even put some of the old Origins levels back in there. But then they've like.
Did you know that going in? So you were really surprised when they?
No, I knew that going in. I knew that. I didn't know they'd put as many as they did though. They put like quite a lot in there. So you have to go through all the main levels from the new set, and then you can go through the old levels, and they've got these new like scratch card things. So at the end of the level, you collect these lums, which are the little yellow fly things, and then they add up to a big end total.
Yeah.
Depending what level you do, there's like different tallies of like however many you get. There's a landmark for a specific number of lums, and like in every level, there's a scratch card landmark. And if you like scratch off the little cards which you use on the gamepad, and you can play it off the gamepad as well, which is good. You can just play it in bed. You can win different things. Like there's collectible little funny monsters, and there's the levels that you unlock from the first game, Rayman Origins, and then there's these new characters as well, which you unlock in like separate missions as well. So there's literally loads to do. Like there's so much to do.
Replayability by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's a massive replayability game, and like I could go back to it any time and play the levels all over. And it's multiplayer. It's always fun in multiplayer.
Cool.
And they've added more costumes as well for each character. And although a lot of them are kind of similar, the same but different, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have like more costumes unlocked, because before there wasn't that many, and they were unlocked differently. But yeah, it was just a beautiful game for 2013.
Brilliant. Okay, fair enough. Is there anything you didn't enjoy in there, or were you, as a game, it was a solid experience?
I hate the underwater levels, but that's just because I hate underwater levels in games in general.
Going back to the old Super Mario days, then. They're
just slow, and like, yeah, I don't like them at all. I never like water worlds or water levels, but that's just because I don't like them. That's not really anything to do with the game.
Temples.
So no, actually, I can't think of anything that I didn't like. It was literally all
I had a great experience with it. I mean, I got to be honest, I love the way you guys are so honest. Normally when people come out and say their game of the year, they just literally talk about the good about it all, and the fact that you can acknowledge that these games aren't 100%. You may get 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10. There's still things there. It's good to hear. That's cool. All right. Well, thanks.
I think they just took loads of like feedback from the first. That's what it seems like they've done, and then just added more to the second and made it better.
Do you think
the fact this one's in like
released for so long worked in its favour? The fact you could add all of this stuff in and work through the kinks.
I think so, because they said like when the delay happened, they reassured all the Wii U fans that it was to add extra content and whatnot, and everyone was like, "Yeah, not really. You're just doing it because you want to delay it for the Xbox and get more sales and stuff." But they did. I think they probably did add a bit of extra content, and they have the challenges mode, which is not in the other versions, which is probably one of the main highlights as well, actually, because it's online.
Yeah.
So you basically have these daily and weekly challenges, which you compete in, and then you can see like your friends' scores and your like everyone online, the world and stuff. And like there's different difficulties, and there was like there's 2 daily challenges, and then 2 weekly challenges. And
so they're trying to build on community with the game then.
Yeah, and they're really like after they usually involves either running to do the level the quickest, or collecting a certain amount of lums, or seeing how far you could get in one level. They were my favourite ones, seeing how far you could get, because you could just keep going. But with the other ones, the times got really difficult, so people were either cheating or they were just ridiculously Japanese, and they just managed to get 1 second finishes in a level which you just couldn't beat, so you didn't get the gold trophies. Actually, that was one thing that was annoying.
Yeah. No, so they, by the sounds of it, there's lots of replayability. They're definitely building on a community, and like you say, it's one that stood out of everything else.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Indeed.
Okay, guys. Well, I'll quickly just jump in. My game of the year was Tomb Raider. I know it's probably not for everybody. It was quite quick time heavy as well. But that aside, I loved it. I'm really looking forward for it being released on the PS4 because I want to jump back into it. A bit like Natasha, it was the first game in a while that I completed to 100%. I found and wanted to do everything I could with that game, and I've not had that for years. The story was really progressive. It really, as an origin story, I just really enjoyed it. Found it really emotional, a bit like Last of Us for William. I mean, I reviewed it 5 out of 5, and I still stick to 5 out of 5. I was quite happy with it. And I mean, I picked it up in Steam as well further on, and I've been playing with it as well until it comes out on the PS4 as part of the Tomb Raider bundle. And again, I went back to it and enjoyed it like I did the other game. And I think we all agree. I think a game of the year to you is a game you can just go back and carry on playing in 2014. To me, it's not.
Certainly.
Yeah, and a lot of people bounce around, and I think a lot of it with the big sites, maybe they rate games quite high, and the game of the year could be the politics side of it. But we'll touch on our worst games as well, I think. But yeah, I thought it was a great experience, and I do think, as well as all the ones you guys talked about, I think everyone should have a crack at it. I've recommended it to quite a lot of my friends, and they've enjoyed it to the same sort of level. Some not so, but you'll get that with everything, I suppose. So thanks so much for your thoughts and feelings on 2013, your game of the year. As I said, we'll touch on the worst. So we'll start at the back of the line now. So we'll start with
my worst one. It's not that it's a terrible game. It's just the circumstances of it coming out was Rome 2 Total War.
Oh, okay, all right, go on then.
Right, because I love the
Total War series. One people were really looking forward to, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a good game, and I love the whole series, Total War. But on release, it was so unplayable because it was this massive tennis match between the patches of only people with amazing computers can play it, only people with shit computers can play it, right? And it was just so unplayable for everyone. I mean, I couldn't play it on lower settings, but I could play it on higher settings, but if I played it on higher settings, the frame rate would drop, or I'd do this, and then the lighting would go crazy, and it was just so buggy on release, and beyond the fact that I don't even think they had play testers.
Okay, wow, you didn't have a great experience, really, did you?
Right, I mean, now it's gradually leveled out to the point that it's playable again, and it is really good fun, but it's just that initial thing. They should not have released it in any way, shape, or form, because even people playing with super high-end computers couldn't run it, or flat either not at all, or they were running it and it was going at 1 frame a second, or looked as if it was on basic absolute minimum settings.
Oh wow! Oh bless you! And I was really excited for that as well, weren't you?
Yeah, and there's 1 or 2 things actually part of the game that aren't bugs that are sort of annoying. Is they got this really cool system of internal factions.
Yeah.
Say I'm playing as the Iceni, which is the British one of the British tribes, and or depending on whoever you have different. You'll have your faction, but then inside that you'll have your own politics. You'll have, say, if you're playing as Romans, you'll have different Roman families that make up your faction, and they're all sort of pining for dominance. And it had a really in-depth thing of if people belonging to that particular clan or family did great deeds, they would gain influence for that faction or whatever. And it was a really cool idea, but it did nothing at all. Right, and it literally had no effect on the game. There was no purpose for this function. And I put hours and hours into this function, at least 20 hours into trying to perfect it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 100% tribal following from all the clans of Britain. And it's I got there and it's well, this is exactly the same. What the fuck have I just wasted my time on?
Oh dear.
Also,
wow. So you feel like the reward was unjust?
Yeah, I reckon they're probably going to do something with that in a later expansion. But again, if you're going to do that, don't have it there on release.
Yeah.
Also, barbarians are way overpowered at the beginning.
Sorry, Matt?
Also,
Matt, what?
As I say, if it's not going to be part of the game from the beginning, then why the bloody hell include it?
exactly. And
Could it
also,
be one of those things they tacked on to make you do more for the sake of it? And
see that it feels like it, but it honestly, everything about it implies that there was some kind of function for that, but they just either scrapped it or didn't implement it yet. But I mean, other than that, on a whole, it's a good game. It's a beautiful game if you can get it to run on its specs, and it's really fun. It's a bit more streamlined than previous ones. If if you're not the sort of person who can get into the Total War games because you think they're a bit too micromanagey or a bit too complex. I mean, this one's perfect because it's not like dumbed down, but it's a lot more. What's the word? Like easy just to pick up and play.
Pick up and play.
Okay. But it's still that has to take my worst game just because of how unplayable it was at the beginning.
And how long were you waiting for that one?
I was waiting for that one from release from announcement was probably about 2 years. Waiting for it emotionally about 5 years.
Oh, bless you. Well, it's good you managed to get a game of the year out of it then, because it would have been bad if that was the only thing you were really banking on. And
yeah.
But bless you. All right, Natasha, did you play any bad ones this year?
Not really. I mean, it's not a case of playing that the games I played were bad. It was just a case of I liked them less than I liked my top game. I can't think of anything I've played that's been particularly bad, and the only game that technically came out this year that I've played that is a bad game didn't really come out this year. It came out in 1983 and was a port on the computer, so it doesn't really count.
What was that?
Dragon's Lair.
Right.
I hate that game with a passion. I have it for my NES, and you die a lot. Let's just put it that way. It's hardcore.
Demon's Souls.
No. In the first level, it's not a spoiler because it's the first level. You have to get across a drawbridge, and this doesn't seem like a particularly hard task, but there's a dragon firing fireballs at you that if they hit you, kill you instantly. And there's this little bat flying around that if it hits you, kills you. Now, you can kill the bat, but you can't kill the dragon. But once you've got the drawbridge down, the dragon disappears magically, but its fireballs keep coming. I rage quit after getting past level 1 because level 2 is even worse. And it makes you start from the beginning because lovely ports are lovely.
I think if you rage quit and don't go back to it, I think that pretty much defines a bad game.
Yeah.
Regardless of when it was released. So yeah.
It's in a box somewhere.
Oh, bless you. And all right, okay, moving on then, Matt.
My worst game of the year is a game I tried to play 3 times and it still wouldn't bloody work. By which I mean, I had 3 different friends who all owned this game, were all complaining that it didn't work, that they just want it to work. But then whenever I came round to try it, it still didn't work. So for the worst servers I've ever seen for a video game at launch, it has to go to SimCity.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh,
wow. It is a disgrace. If you were going to make a game entirely built around the internet and not have it work on the internet, you have failed.
Then everybody was like, well, can we not play it on offline? And they're like, no, it has to be online. And then somebody released a video showing how you play offline. And they're like, oh, yeah, we didn't know it could do that.
We don't know how our own game works.
Literally the press release.
Oh, dear.
Oh, man.
John Riccatello suddenly resigned for some reason.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
Mysterious.
Mysteries. No one knows.
With all the debacle of Xbox One and not allowing friends to play and not allow backwards compatible and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Don Matrick, I think it was.
Who also bit the bullet.
And in terms of bad stories for the year, it was pretty bad. I mean, you got Don Matrick turning around and basically saying to people that can't play their games on the Xbox One
to buy an Xbox 360.
Buy an Xbox 360, and I remember it was on Game Traders. I had an interview with him. I think it's Greg James. He turned around and he said, "So that's your advice to your consumer is buy an Xbox 360 or stick with your Xbox 360. And you know when you can see somebody's face when they're like, I really shouldn't have said that, and they still go with it.
Yeah.
Exactly what he done.
Yeah.
I can imagine it was the same situation for SimCity. They released the game and then they were like, we'll work at all these bugs and all the complaints and this doesn't work, but no, you can't play offline. And then somebody releases a thing saying, well, this is how
Actually, you can.
And then they're like, oh, we didn't know that could. Yeah, sorry, we didn't know it did that.
We don't know how our own game works. We are that pro, guys.
Bless you. Okay, so did you ever get on it or did you just give up, Matt?
I just gave up. I never got the chance
Never
to
gone
play
back.
it.
Now, even though it probably works.
I'm sure at some point it will be fun to play. I may try soon, but oh god, just
13.
it's like the worst cock teasing gaming. It's terrible.
I kind of want to play it because you can build circular roads, but that's a really bad reason to play a terrible game.
It's really bad reason. Oh, bless. All right,
Cons, the game wasn't available at launch. Pros, circular roads.
All right, William, your worst game of the year?
Oh god. Sniper Elite Nazi Zombie Army.
You win.
I
thought I couldn't waste £3 on it, but I clearly did. It starts you off with a sniper rifle.
It's a bad game when you spend £3 and you still want your money back.
Yeah.
Oh,
basically,
God. Is it so atrocious?
It's a game about killing zombies, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're given a sniper rifle.
Right.
And they spawn 10 feet in front of you. Where's the bloody logic? So you're stuck using this little crappy assault rifle the whole game?
Even though the tagline says sniper.
Yeah. This is a sniper game where you use assault rifles.
Yes.
You know when they like have real title for games or movies, they should be crossed out, and that should be your title for your game.
It's ridiculous. I was so angry. I played about 20 minutes of it. I had to rage quit and just give up. It was just so bad.
Have you ever gone back to it?
No. It's like sitting in my naughty list on Steam.
Oh, bless you.
In those 20 minutes, you could have got £2. For like any job, you could have just done a job for 20 minutes and used that money to help save a child's life. Just to put it in context, that's what I'm saying. Is it's the zombie shooty bang bang game's fault that children are dying.
Let's not lay it on thick now, shall we?
Yeah.
On another
like a
note,
humble
puppies.
Sniper Elite is the reason why there is death and famine in the world.
Oh man, that was funny.
I went too dark.
All right.
I went too far.
No, never go too far. Okay, thanks everybody. Really good discussion tonight. It's funny you didn't really talk about the next gen 2 consoles being released really, but at the end of the day they've only been out a couple of months, so it'll be really interesting to see what both the Xbox and PlayStation do over the next year. I mean, to be fair, without fanboyism aside, your Xbox, your Wii, your PlayStation, without them all, you wouldn't have competition, and competition does thrive for us, the fans. So everybody complains and says one's better than the other, but in reality, competition works. You know, even though you got you're good and you're bad in each and all of them. Possibly towards the end of next year, it will all change. We'll see for all of us, I guess. And just wrapping up, really, just want to thank you all for coming. If you want to come check us out, fans alike, remember to hit us up at www.thegamingrig.co.uk. If you need to email us or you want to drop some questions along or maybe come along to one of these podcasts, the email address is info@thegamingrig.co.uk. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, yes.
Cool. Obviously did.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right, and thank you all. Cheers.